give us your feedback. I know there's an awful lot going on in the city.
Hi, Anne. Good
Hi.
morning, everybody. Sorry, Anne, so I can give you feedback. Do you want in general with the city and also the Lillian and Ngoyi, etc.?
Yes, so
and
the more feedback you can give us from your point of view, that would be very welcome.
Okay, thank you. So I think maybe I'll start with the SRA. Krishni is in this meeting and he can also contribute to the progress and feedback on that. So we received 2 business plans, and the intention was to take those business plans and pilot it in the system. So before we finalize the implementation system with our IT unit, that we actually take a proper business plan through it and we can identify any glitches. So the 2 business plans were submitted to revenue to establish the rates being collected and if there's rates owing in the precincts that were identified. And the intention for that is also for revenue to use that pilot to decide on what the collection figure should be and how often we pay the money back to the SIDS. So we have not received that from revenue as yet. So once we get that, we'll take it through the system. I'm not sure if, of course, he wants to add anything further to that progress before I move on.
Nothing from my side, Krishni. You covered everything.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So on the Lillian and Ngoyi, we're under extremely tight timelines. And there's been significant progress. I know the actual rehabilitation hasn't started, but there's been significant progress in terms of the designs and the procurement to get contractors on the ground. So we had a round of engagements on the design concept. We've presented to the representatives from Lillian and Ngoyi the concept designs. We've got feedback from them as well, which we forwarded to the consultant. We've presented to the ward councillors in terms of where we are with the project progress. And then there was also a presentation made to the Taxi Association. Tomorrow is the date we're expecting the detailed designs to be submitted to us. So it's detailed designs, the tunnels were redesigned, the roads, etc. And we also did a lot of urban design work for the entire length of the road. So tomorrow we'll receive the detailed designs. So we've separated them into work packages, work package 1 and 2, where we're focusing on the actual road and tunnel rehabilitation. And then work package 3 is where we're going into more of the urban environment upgrades. So it'll be a phased approach for that reconstruction. So that kind of,
we might have questions. Yes, we might have questions on that one, Krishni, or comment from, for instance, Stephen, who's been helping, I think, to coordinate property owner input there. Is that right?
Yeah, so sorry, Anne, before Stephen can comment, just also in terms of an update. So the declaration of disaster, that our application was rejected. I have sent it to our legal unit, and then I've also made contact with for the actual resolution that we received to review that decision, and we'll take guidance from our legal unit. And in our engagement with Stephen, it was also raised, and Michaela, it was raised, can it be appealed? But we first want to engage, the colleagues before we go through an appeal process, because sometimes it's seen as confrontational. Maybe they just need to reconsider the contents of the application, or if we miss something, to reconsider that. And then, so that's in terms of the actual declaration of the disaster, where we are in terms of that progress. And we've also engaged our revenue department and legal department to see what other options are available to assist the property owners, in terms of compensation, legally, what can we do to assist them? Because we do feel, the stress that they're under, especially financially, where they're still expected to pay rates and taxes and where they've lost income. So they are looking at that option as well.
Okay, thank you, Krishni. So Lucas, hello, welcome. I'm going to ask you to switch your camera off for now. We're just talking to Krishni Gounden of the city of Johannesburg. Does anybody want to give input, have questions on Lillian Ngoyi? I know Aresti's been going mad over the traffic management, but anyway, it's moving forwards. Stephen?
Good morning, Anne. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we've been working very closely with Krishni and her team and the RD around Lillian Ngoyi, and there's quite a high degree of frustration, as you can imagine. Property owners, I know some of the property owners, some of the bigger guys are considering legal action now against the city. They don't believe that there's sufficient work being done at a quick enough pace to try and rehabilitate. And obviously a lot of them have now lost tenants, but they still have bonds to pay and the like. So, you know, Krishna, we do know the time frame. We do know end of the month. There's certain things that are supposed to be happening. We're going to try and open the cross streets as early as possible. But hopefully, when we start seeing people on the ground and work being done, people will then realize things are being done. Michaela and I spent quite a bit of time just trying to keep property owners and tenants appeased at this stage. But as you can imagine, it happened in July and we're now in November. People's patience tend to run a bit thin as time progresses. So hopefully, when we see people on the ground, we will then people will then start to calm down a little bit and have a bit more faith. But in every other way, the relationship has been working very well. We've got a good MOU with the city and the property owners along Lillian Ngoyi. And hopefully, you know, they have been very forthcoming with all the information. We've had multiple meetings where designs have been shared and inputs have been taken. So from a relationship point of view and a work relationship point of view, it has been something very new and something very different in terms of the coordination and the partnership. So I'm happy that we've got that. But now we just got to see some bodies on the ground and roads being reinstated. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks. Krishni, I think you did make reference to, you know, the joint efforts of trying to avoid court action. I mean, it's frustrating for you too. You want to comment?
Yes, and I do understand the property owner's frustration, and like Stephen says, we've engaged, and I hear that, and yeah, not to give excuses, but the process was we had to go through a procurement process. Unfortunately, you're bound by that, and we tried to, and we used the quickest process possible. And if you see from the time that the consultants were appointed to the time of delivery, it's exceptionally short. I mean, you'd want to spend months doing urban design work, for example, and we've given them a very short time frame where we put everything in together so we could get a whole package, you know, out of it. And I think what also took us back a bit was we had to redesign the tunnels, rethink about it, and, you know, the services. And also it wasn't just the road rehabilitation and above ground rehabilitation, it was also our services. So I do know, you know, it's been a while since we've the explosion to now, but I can show Stephen, and I've been engaging with the consultants. We've had numerous meetings over the last couple of weeks, and specifically last week as well, with the detailed designs. And they have committed that they will have it with us as per the deadline, which is tomorrow. And then in terms of, you know, the expectation of people on the ground, our mandate is that we need to have people appointed before December. And I know we're going to the December period. Our intention was to continue with the construction during the course of December. However, with suppliers being closed, etc., that's something, you know, we can't mitigate if they are closed for us to get materials, but they will be appointed before December. And then also from a mitigation perspective, to avoid work stoppages, you know, from people living in the area. We've also engaged the councillors, and we gave them the time frames that once the contractors are appointed, you know, SMMEs can be registered. So people are aware. We've already briefed them on the dates and timelines, so we don't get, you know, undue work stoppages as well with the councillors, and they are fully aware of it. So they will follow that process. We're hoping once the contractors are appointed, everything will run smoothly. But that's intended to be, like I said, before December for them to be appointed.
I mean, it's so for me, looking from the outside, I can understand both sides of the challenge here. There's an opportunity to do a proper redesign and work it through. The private sector obviously has financial problems related to this. So I'm delighted that there's a lot of communication going on, Krishni, thank you. And thanks to those people who are facilitating that communication. I mean, I think that's a definite step in the right direction. While we're on this subject, there was talk of redesigning other sections of the tunnels in the city. Is that still on the cards, or is the priority obviously Lillian and Ngoyi and get that right?
And I can only confirm for Lillian and Ngoyi, I'm not aware of other work in other areas. At this point in time, I'm only aware of the Lillian and Ngoyi, but I can get you that feedback.
Yeah, okay, great. And then is there any other questions for Krishni on this one? No. Krishni, have you got any other feedback for us? I gather there's another, I don't know, is it a vote of no confidence happening again this week? I'm not sure what's happening.
I don't keep track of that anymore, and it happens so often. So, yeah, no, I just want to show appreciation specifically to Stephen and Michaela. They basically, the eyes and the ears on the ground, and they bring to our attention a lot of the challenges that they are facing. We do have urban managers, inspectors, and other departments and entities on the ground, but them being in that space, they bring it to the relevant forums, and also great. They have been extremely patient under the circumstances. For them to know that they are able to contact us. With any issues and escalate any issues either to myself or to the regional director. But, that we appreciate the patience. I do understand the financial constraints, and we are looking at avenues where we could possibly assist.
Yes, that's great, Krishni. Thank you very much. I must say, I do think through the region's LET program and one or two other things that are happening, there's much more collaboration and listening to each other's challenges and how one can help. So I think that, some good things are coming out of this. Isha's got his hand up.
Thanks, Sam. Just curious about the guys at the High Court. I think, Krishni, you are part of a WhatsApp group there that it's almost like on daily basis. There are reports of either litter, traffic jams, and so on. And I just want to ask, is there a way in which something could be done which is more pragmatic, to use N's words, sustainable solutions for that space? I think the answer may not necessarily come from Krishni alone, but also from others in this meeting. Thanks.
Yeah, Krishni, your opinion on High Court?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. So that's the constant urban management challenge. That's not just in the High Court; it's actually in the entire inner city and in other areas as well. But I do know development planning is focusing on that precinct as well with some design work. So I'll factor this challenge into it so that we have a proper operational plan that is sustainable in terms of what we implement going forward, not just in this precinct, but in other precincts as well.
Stephen, you can give help here.
Thanks, Anne. So the city, which I think it's through the JDA, have appointed urban designers that I've been working quite closely with to look at the precinct as a whole, how it integrates with the precincts around it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're about a week away from submitting their report and their ideas to the JDA. It's either JD or JR, I can never remember which one it is. Their report to them to see how best to deal with not only the streetscapes, but things like the squatter occupied buildings on Van Brander Street, the blocking of the judge's entrance on Riyama Musa Street. All sorts of things are being looked at. So there is some work being done in the background. So hopefully in the next couple of days or the next week or so, we'll have the reports coming out as to what the best way forward is, particularly for the High Court.
Thanks, Stephen. You know, historically, probably over 15 years or more, I've had quite a lot to do with that precinct. And I'm still incredibly frustrated that owners of property are not contributing. So they're terribly excited and they're in the WhatsApp and they're there, but they're not actually putting their money where their mouth is, for want of a description. So I think that's I mean, the two SIDs neighbouring are helping hugely, but that the state is not also contributing to the solution here as a partner. And other owners of rateable property I find incredible. I'm probably out of step, sorry, forgive me. Krishni?
Thanks. And just to clarify, so that project, Stephen, the owners for it is development planning, and they've appointed via JDA's panel consultants to work on it. So they're the custodians of that project. In terms of implementation as well, it'll go through JDA to implement via the panel, if that's the best way. So it's between planning and then obviously funding was sourced via the SBU, which is us for that.
Okay, thanks for that clarity. That's great. So now I think, Krishni, I don't think there are any other issues. Obviously, we're still waiting to be included in the Informal Trade Stakeholders Forum. My understanding is they were going to appoint a facilitator, but you might not have an update on that yet. I think it's quite frustrating how slow that process is going, but anyway, such is life. Krishni, are you familiar with what's happening there, or am I putting you on the spot? Or maybe you could help follow up for us.
I will follow up with the informal trading team to include you into the stakeholder forum. I do know they have been having engagement specifically with the traders. So I will ask them to include you into that discussions.
Yes, thanks so much. I mean, they are talking about setting up this stakeholders forum, and obviously that would include property owners and developers, and actually a really broad base of community. They were going to employ a facilitator. I've seen Ishi's hand, I'll acknowledge it in a minute. They were going to employ an outside facilitator for that process, which makes a lot of sense, but we've heard nothing since. Ish?
Thanks very much. Just it's information. A small informal traders asked me to approach Elliot, and then I was amazed when they asked for accommodation, just accommodation, and then I was surprised when he said that even internally there needs to be payment if accommodation is to be secured for those vulnerable stakeholders, and I'm using that descriptive advisedly. Thanks. Is that a general thing that everything we have to pay for, including venues which were previously or made available?
Sorry, Ish, are you talking specifically about traders? I might have misunderstood, or are you talking about displaced people?
The traders.
So they're also looking for accommodation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for meeting, but it actually ended up
for their meetings.
It ended up having to be hosted in Kempton Park, which is Ekurhuleni, but Johannesburg was considered as the best municipality to provide accommodation, but they have to pay.
Yes,
I hope I'm clear. Yeah.
Yes, I'm just going to ask another point of clarity. So we're talking about accommodation for their meetings, not for their living.
No, for meetings, meeting spaces where they have conversation, and they were to receive a plan on township economy.
Yes. Okay, so I think with Krishni's help, we'll try. We do have a great relationship with the DED and the team there. It's gone very quiet at the moment, but historically we do. So Krishni and I will follow that up. Thank you for making the point. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you. So now we're going to go to Krishni. Is there any other feedback at the moment? Sorry, I seem to be running over people.
No, and Lillian and Ngoyi has been keeping us quite busy, so there isn't any other feedback from my side to this forum.
No. Okay, and so of course I'm going to come to Michaela. So of course we are concerned about the SRA bylaw. When are we going to be involved in the conversation? We understand internally they're trying to sort themselves out, so I understand that, but sometimes they don't always have the full understanding of how this could work from our point of view. So that's the other question I ask you, Krishni. Michaela?
And just as a question, I don't know, I mean, I haven't really seen much about it, but following the Albert Street fire, I mean, has there been any feedback with regard to those displaced persons who obviously, I mean, I know there was temporary accommodation that was made available. I'm not quite sure where that's sitting at the moment. I raise the question because we've obviously, we've got some issues of homeless in our area, and we've, some of them are saying that they were displaced by that fire. Just so we can understand what that protocol is, if we're supposed to be directing people to particular resources.
Okay.
Any feedback on that?
Okay, we've got Leona with us as well. She might make comment later on. Krishni, I see that you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and so that's been run by our Human Settlements Department. I can't give you the exact progress status to date, Michaela, but I know there was plans in place of securing TEA because that seems to be the issue. But what I could do, if you have homeless people needing to be placed, then I will put you in contact with the relevant persons from the city side that's addressing that specific issue.
Okay, thanks so much, Krishni. Thanks for that offer, and definitely Michaela will follow that up. I'm going to ask the team from the Johannesburg Homeless Network later on to make comment. They might have comment on this for us. Now we have two visiting speakers. How are you doing?